because the conservation subdivision regulations deal with residential development only, and we're not proposing any changes to provisions of section 5.3.3 would deal with residential subdivisions, so I did not see the need to address them in the conservation subdivision regulations. No provisions are offered concerning temporary cul-de-sacs. I disagree with that because one of the parameters that we've added in the revised regulation is that your commission can take into consideration the reasonable likelihood of the interconnection of a cul-de-sac street with another existing or proposed through street. No provisions offered allowing case-by-case determination of the need for secondary emergency access. I agree that we do not. I also feel that it would not be unreasonable for the commission to at least allow itself the discretion to determine on a case-by-case basis whether or not emergency access would be required in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community, and certainly would not object to that being added as a matter for consideration by the commission in the draft regulation. No provisions offered calling for referral to public safety officials such as the fire marshal for consideration of emergency access and circulation. Again, if the commission feels that that's important to have in the regulation, you can object to that. My understanding is that that's always done as a matter of course anyways in your review process. An application to development is referred out to your municipal officials, comments come back, and those are taken into consideration. So while I don't feel it's critical that it be in the regulation, we certainly don't object to it. No requirement for a traffic study to determine whether existing road standards and proposed access is suitable for proposed development on a case-by-case basis. Again, I think that has the potential to provide good information to the commission. If you want to consider incorporating that, we don't object. No requirement for water main design to ensure emergency water supply can be provided throughout the development. I disagree with that. We specifically have provided that you consider whether or not public water supply is available and have placed that in the regulation within the jurisdiction of the water supplier to inform the commission whether or not the requirements of their design standards have been met. Provide 5 feet of additional right-of-way area from edge of pavement for snow storage, plus a 20 by 30 easement area. The 20 by 30 easement area is in the regulation. We don't object to an additional 5 feet right-of-way. Then there is another set of comments entitled Conditions of Approval. Again, I don't think these should be requirements. I think they should be matters of consideration by the commission within the regulation. The one I would caution you on, without getting specific input from your Director of Public Works, is whether or not to incorporate a boulevard type road. Generally, the Public Works Department does not like plowing boulevards. There is more maintenance expense because there's more curbing to be knocked out during the winter season. So I think you should receive some input from the Public Works Director on that. Considerations with respect to requiring a bond. I think that that will have a disincentive to development, which is the very thing that we're trying to avoid by proposing this regulation in order to make industrial and commercial development easier and more cost effective in the community and open up land that is currently not accessible for economic development purposes. If you have a large parcel and want to develop in stages or phases, even if there is the potential for a future interconnection, the cost of that bond may be prohibitive. So I could not support that. That is our presentation with respect to the proposed regulation. I'll address any questions that the commission may have.
So these other items, the sidewalk, the lighting, you don't really have a problem with them?
I don't think they should be mandatory. I think you should have the discretion on a case-by-case basis within the regulation in order to determine whether or not they're warranted. And again, it's going to depend on the scope and the location of the project and how that project interconnects to other areas of the town. But, conceptually, I don't object to it. I think it's a good plan.
Okay, any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think we'll hold off on our questions. Is there any public comment from anybody about this application?
Thank you. For the record, Tom Giod, Chairman of the Economic Development Commission here in Griswold. The applicant did appear with the Economic Development Commission. Presented essentially the same concept that they presented this evening. In terms of economic development, it's I think an inevitable change. How the P&Z sees the change and to what extent they apply other, as presented here, requirements is really obviously needed. It's not something that if you want to provide a open door and not have some control over the extensions of roads. I think what we need to see is that a number of our frontages on the state roads, 138 and so forth, areas has been used up, and we are facing the need to go deeper into properties that are zoned appropriately for industrial and commercial. And this is an avenue that does open up economic development. The EDC does support, I don't know if you got a letter in, Mario, to in support of it from the group?
No, because it was all the action that the Economic Development Commission took was based on staff comments, which
Right.
Were the town engineers' comments, our consulting engineers' comments, my comments.
Right now. But when you review the records, the minutes of the meeting, the EDC does support it. And personally, stepping out of the chairman of the EDC, I personally support, I think, the idea of enabling land that is presently, let's say, landlocked, and open it up. And the use within a subdivision is regulated by other parts of the Planning and Zoning Commission. So you're looking at land down, whether it's a 1,800 or 2,000 foot road, the use of the land itself is regulated within the industrial. The one area I would comment on is that at this point, we don't have, to my knowledge, and plan if I'm correct, I don't think we have standards for roads within an industrial park or industrial setting. In other words, what we have on the books is how you construct roads in a residential setting. Well, if you're going to put a 2,000 foot, and just for example, road in that may see heavy equipment, multiple trips, a warehouse, a lot of traffic in and out, I think you need to take the standards that we build a road to, and as much as the road itself becomes a town road, repairs are our responsibility. The road then should be constructed to meet the desired use. So that would be the one comment that I would like to see added to the once we have standards. So I don't think we do at this point, right, Mario?
That's correct.
So we'd like to see standards developed at the same time apply them if this is approved. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay. Any questions for staff?
I have a question.
Sure.
Attorney Heller, are you aware of the lengths of any cul-de-sac or access drives that don't have two means of egress that are in existence now that have been approved, and what the lengths of those roads might be?
Yes, in Montville, you have Enterprise Lane and Lakeview Drive off of Route 85, just past Lake Kennewick. I believe it's a T. one comes in, the other tees off. And I believe in combination, it's in excess of 3,500 feet. And then you have an industrial park in Groton that was approved under their regulation, which is just off of 117. I don't know exactly what the length is there, but it's considerable.
When you're considering length, that mon and model, that's kind of tricky. I'm assuming when you said 3,500 feet, that's kind of deceptive in the sense that it's not 3,500 straight in there. It's
No,
probably
it's-
about 1,500 and it takes a left for, we'll say 1,000 or something like that. So would that be considered two cul-de-sacs or would that be considered
Well,
one cul-de-sac?
I look at
Because you need the turning radiuses on either end of that one, if that's.
But when I look at dead end system is, you know, how much frontage, how much potential, how many potential lots and how much potential use only has one means of ingress and egress.
Right, but we could potentially have a tract both sides is 3 or 4 1,500 foot dead ends off of a main road. The way you propose, the way, if it was constructed like the one in Monmouth, go up to Valley Good Places, there's a turnaround. About halfway up, there's a left-hand turn that goes to the veterinarian thing. So you potentially could have a lot of dead-end roads off of that.
I agree.
50, so is this, guys, is this proposal based on one long road or is it based on a bunch of dead end?
Total
It's
linear footage.
total linear footage, it could be either or.
Okay. You follow what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Mark Prince. We always advise commissions to define cul-de-sac as any road or combination of roads having only one exit. Because you're right, if you just say 1,200 feet, whatever, so someone puts in a 1,200 foot road, then they put a 1,200 foot road over that, and 1,200 foot road over that. Effectively, it's still, 3,600 feet of road with only one way in and out. The fact that you put in a T or something isn't changing the risk factors, the traffic flow factors. It's not changing any of the factors that you're looking at. And in looking at your subdivision regs, I'm just looking to see if you define cul-de-sac.
Mark, it's addressed in 5.3.3.
Okay.
It's not by definition, but it's
Oh,
addressed
okay,
there.
good. All right, good. Because that's the right way to do it. And it really, you don't care how many times they tee off. It's how the closed system, how long is it? How many uses or lots does it serve?
Yeah, the lay of the land will dictate how that could be constructed anyway.
Yes.
So we're gonna go by the definition on the new revised 3.3.3A, right? Is that what we're?
Yes.
Okay. Mara, do you have anything you want to say?
No, other than, the comments that were expressed. Obviously, for either a commercial, primarily they're gonna be commercial because our industrial areas are very, very limited. But, in terms of commercial development, for manufacturing or similar type use, it's gonna require water and sewer. The property on 201 has CO2 water main running by there down 201, but no sewer. Sewer's about 2,500 feet away. And properties off 164, 138 do have access to sewer and water, but the water service along 164 is very limited in terms of pressure and volume. So any significant development that's going to require a fire suppression system will have to have some kind of auxiliary water source, whether it's a below ground tank or an above grade tank or some type of ladder. There's currently a ladder that services the AIM shopping, former AIM shopping center, Target, or Tractor Supply, that area.
Well, I'm not reading where it says that we're requiring city sewage, we're definitely requiring some type of water supply. So I'm just
Yeah, well, I mean, typically, manufacturing, industrial type uses need both services. If they're doing any kind of processing, usually water's involved, and there's wastewater. So obviously it would be, sewer for that discharge.
Okay.
And obviously, if you have any type of system that requires water, you need an ample supply, so.
May I address? Sure. Again, for the record, Harry Heller, I disagree that you need sanitary sewer. Many of your light industrial uses. For instance, that industrial park that Mr. Cutlass asked me about in Montville, you have, 15, 18 lots in there. There's no public sewer there. That's a good light industrial subdivision, provides good tax revenue to the town of Montville, all developed with on-site septic systems. Really, for the safety reasons, you do need the water. You have to have the pipe.
Well, the square footage of the buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, Peter.
I would suggest that you get the comments from the fire chiefs and the fire marshal before you.
Well, we're just getting, there's a lot of information. That's why I asked Harry if you'd mind waiting.
But we don't have that now. You should have that if you're continuing the public hearing. Well, you should allow for that. If you have,
Like, does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I agree with Peter's English that I think we should have those comments for our consideration and also to be added to the record.
Okay, so I'm gonna need a motion to continue this public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you do, I just want to review the comments from Attorney Hamill, who was here this evening, and Attorney Heller's address, and I just want to review those so that the applicant hears it, you hears it, and that something else you want us to address, you'll know. The provision on residential subdivision, that's not part of their application. We're noting that it's something you may want to address going on. One of the things that also is sort of a more an issue for the commission that I noted in our initial review was that there should be some sort of blanket waiver for cul-de-sac length for all types of subdivisions to avoid an unconstitutional taking. Again, that's not their application, but this is something we've seen arise in other towns where it doesn't matter what number you pick 1,500 feet, and the subdivider develops 1,500 feet to his property line. Next guy comes in for 3 lots, and you say, oh no, you can't have any lots because you're already at 1,500 feet. You see, but I'm not that other guy. I have my own property. You're not allowed to take all use of property. So we need some sort of blanket waiver. That hasn't come up yet, but when it does, we'll have a problem with it.
Can you write up something for that?
Yes, I can. Temporary cul-de-sacs, I agree with Attorney Heller. It is addressed in his text. I think Kayla and I talked about this. In his letter, Chuck Eaton had some fairly specific things that he thought were worthy considerations, and I agree with those comments. But I think that the language is here is that the applicant shall demonstrate. That demonstration would include the kinds of things that Mr. Eaton talked about. Is there an agreement from the adjoining owner? What is the topography like? Does the road extend to the property line? Those are the kinds of things that will be part of their demonstration. One thing we would suggest in the text, and I don't think the applicant would object, it says shall demonstrate. I would say to the commission's satisfaction that, which is implied anyway, by the way. Everything is to your satisfaction. The secondary emergency access, I do think is something that should be added. I'm willing to draft that up. I can do it well before your meeting so that the applicant and any other interested member of the public can see it. In the number of the towns that we represent, that is a factor. There are cases where you can get emergency access over a power line right of way, or the fire trucks can go pretty much where they have to as long as there's a passable route. And if you have the availability of that emergency route, that's a plus. It gives you a little more comfort level in going longer than you might otherwise have been willing to go. So I think that's something valid and legitimate for you to factor into your thought process. And I think the regulation should say that. a similar traffic study, it would be an option if you thought you needed it. But Chuck Eaton's report to you talks about, what's the volume of traffic? What now? And by the way, in many subdivisions, industrial or otherwise, you won't really know what the traffic is going to be. You won't know if it's a warehouse versus, manufacturing. Institute of Traffic Engineers have projections for general categories of uses. That's what traffic engineers do. That's their lives. They try to crystal ball what the traffic generation is going to be from particular mixes of uses. And I think there will be cases where you're going to want that kind of advice and where the applicant should provide it. Review by your engineer too, of course. I agree that there is water main language in here. I think that's, and I think that the general language is used here is fine, just per the specs of the water company, whoever the water company is. And I don't think we need to say Jewett City, because someday somebody may buy the Jewett City Water Company. It'll be somebody else. So whoever the water company is, that's who it is. The right of way, the applicant has said yes, they agree with that. I think all of this is draftable, and it won't take long.
What
to put
about
together.
the concern about road standards? Should that be done at the same time, or can that be done after?
I do. It would not be an amendment to the subdivision regulations, it would be an amendment to the road specs. And I think that Mr. Eden is right, and Mr. Giard is also correct. I've never seen a town that doesn't have a road spec for residential subdivisions and a road spec for industrial commercial subdivisions.
Well, welcome to Jewett City.
And I'm just thinking, we represent Eastford, and they have two different road specs. So, and that's something I know that Chuck Eaton can help you with. Also from our office, Ron Oshner is working with Montville right now to update their road specs. As I think the commission knows, he's both the PE and an attorney, and has done a lot of road spec work, and I'm sure could give us some suggestions working with Chuck. Sidewalks are a policy consideration for the commission. In Glastonbury years ago, we made a decision that we needed sidewalks in residential subdivisions, not in industrial parks, because we figured who walks in industrial parks. Our office is in one of those industrial parks, and times have changed. People walk every single day at lunch, and you see them out there all the time. And our newer lots in this particular park have sidewalks. So it's something I wouldn't have thought of, but it is becoming one of the big employers in our industrial park encourages their employees to go walking at lunch. And you see lots of people walking. Streetlights, I think, is also, there again, I think it's also something to consider for residential subdivisions, but it certainly is something that should be in your road spec generally for streetlights. But yes, particularly industrial, you could have 3 shifts or 2 shifts. Truck traffic, the town obviously has to pay the monthly charge on that. But if, hopefully you'll get a lot of tax base out of industrial park, and that will pay for it. The one thing on the bond, Attorney Heller did not address is, I think the way they amended the statutes just a few years ago, I don't think we're able to do that anymore. The bonding for subdivisions has been really limited for us now, so that they have the option of building it first, building in phases, bonding in phases, and we really can't bond a future phase that they haven't done yet. I don't agree with the General Assembly, but that's what they did. The only other thing that I would suggest as a change, the text that you have before you now for temporary cul-de-sacs calls for leaving an access strip to the property line. I do not agree with that. I think the road has to go to the property line. I have seen countless situations, including one right here in Griswold, where a road was built to a certain point with the future road strip shown on the map, and it's so long that it's economically not viable to actually extend it. So if you're talking temporary cul-de-sac, to me, that means the pavement goes to the property line. So the next property owner can pick up from pavement and proceed. And I think it's a minor change, and I doubt the applicant would object to it, but it's just that these strips end up becoming either economically or physically infeasible. I saw one case where there was an access strip left, but no right to grade. So in order to actually extend the road, you'd have to build like a 20-foot retaining wall, which obviously nobody's going to do. So too many pitfalls with a paper strip. If it's a temporary cul-de-sac, you extend it to the property. That's all my comments, and I can put that together for you.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the comment you just raised, Attorney Grants, about extending the pavement all the way to the property line
Yes.
instead of just
A strip.
Now I'm thinking of construction criteria. Now you've got a cul-de-sac
Yes,
in the middle of this road,
yes.
and then another strip that continues. So now part of their construction detail is having an easement area for their snow storage and snow pusher. So now that can't interfere with that continuing strip either. That can't be used as that easement, as that snow storage. So now where are they gonna put it?
The road specs that I've seen, by the way, those when you have a temporary cul-de-sac, right, going to the property line, and you have to make it a cul-de-sac, you have those curves on each side. They're called ears. At least the engineers that I know call them ears, which is a very descriptive term, right? The ears are located on a temporary right-of-way. It is automatically released when the road is extended. And the party doing the extending has the expense of removing the ears and turning, so you don't get road cul-de-sac, like beads, which just looks stupid. So that's a fairly typical construction detail that and then the easement's released, so you have your snow shelf in a linear pattern, and whoever's doing, I'll call them the extender, whoever's doing the extending, they put in a new cul-de-sac at the end. It's their expense to remove the old one and put in a new one. So that's something that can absolutely be addressed.
Okay, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Again, for the record, Harry Heller representing the applicant. I do have an issue with that because I think it builds in the very disincentive that they're trying to get away from.
With which, I'm sorry, disagree with.
Extending, you're talking about extending the constructed road to the property.
Yes, sorry.
If you're developing in phases, let's say it's gonna be a 3,000-foot cul-de-sac, and you've got users for the first 1,000 feet, so you're gonna build that first 1,000 feet of road. The economic cost of constructing that additional 2,000 feet of road to the property line without an end user may have the disincentive that makes the project economically unfeasible.
I agree. That's not what I meant. I was talking about the design. You see it, right. So that you can still build it, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, okay.
You still build it in phases, but your last phase is to the property line.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
I know,
design.
you're sure you could,
Okay.
I mean, you're right, you might only have 3 lots sold at the beginning, and that you're not gonna build a mile of
And all
road.
your drainage is gonna be designed from the beginning to go all the way to the.
Right, so you've designed it to go to the property line, but no, absolutely, that kind of thing in phases is very normal. I didn't mean to suggest that, sorry. Thank you for
Yeah,
bringing
I'm
it up.
fine with that.
Just one question in that regard. If, in fact, the commission's considering subdivision where you have 2 or 3 Ts off of an access drive, are we talking about extending every cul-de-sac to another possible egress point, or just one to that area?
The way that this language is drafted, those would be the very considerations that you would address. You might decide that more than one needed to go to the property line, depending on the use of the adjacent property, the topography. And you're not going to aim a temporary cul-de-sac into a wetland, because it's not going to get extended there. You're not going to end it into a mountain ledge. You're not going to extend it into you're not going to extend it into existing development. That stubs off in a development that already has access. But those are exactly the kinds of, that's your planning hat as a planning and zoning commission, is you're going to look at the area surrounding this parcel, what is the development potential, what is a logical road pattern, and which one should be extended and which one's not. And this gives you that discretion, and I think you should have that.
Okay, is there a motion to end the public hearing? Thank you.
I put it out till May, just
Perfect,
in
thank you.
case something happens. I
You got a
don't-
nice handwriting.
And I print, so you can read it.
I would just double check. If there's any questions or comments.
Does any more, any comments or questions from the public at this point? Any more questions? Okay, none. Somebody want to make a motion to extend the public hearing to next month? Probably 6:30 also.
Well, I move to extend the public hearing for ZC 01-15. Is 6:30 still an acceptable time? To our next meeting date of, what is that, April 13th? April 13th, 2015, at the Town Hall Meeting Room.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. All right. I didn't get myself ready. Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting to order. The time is 7:22. We actually turned that clock back. Good job. My name is Warren McKinney. To my left is Cortland Kenny. To his right is Jim Kruger. Okay, his left is Jim Kruger, I'm sorry. To my right is Eric Cutlass. To his right is Stuart Oates. I apologize, Stuart. To his right is Charlotte Gear, and to his right is, her right is Tom Polanski. We do have a quorum. Has everybody read the minutes for approval? Get a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do you think it'll require counsel for the other items?
Let me just see what they're. I don't think so. What do you think, Mara? Do you think we don't? We don't
No, I don't.
Looks like pretty much boilerplate stuff.
Okay, thank you. See you next month.
All right, thank you. All right, correspondence attachment, Mario, what do you got for us?
Just informational, trying to get the list of planning and zoning, so far we do have some interesting articles in there. And item B is just a notice about their annual conference.
Okay.
No actions required on either item.
Okay, matters for consideration, ZC 0115, that's the boundaries that just got extended. We'll move on to that, we'll table that.
Motion to table ZC 01-15 to our next regular meeting of April 13th, 2015.
For a second. Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. All right, next matter for consideration, CP 0415, Frank Rubino, 37D Main Street, New City, Connecticut, requesting approval of a zoning permit in order to add a concrete patio to an existing sidewalk for outside dining. Property zone of BC, rural commercial. Anybody here represent the applicant? Come on, just say you have to say your information for the record, please.
Name is Frank Rubino. I'm requesting permit for the outside patio for seating and food attendance. We should have all the updated. We'll go over it.
This stuff here was last-
This is the
Everybody knows. Okay, one of the things that we had, concerns about the last time, we're very, well, I can't talk for everybody, I think it's a good thing you're trying to do. Our only concern is we're concerned about the property line and who owns it, and if it's a right of way, and it's a town road. And I know Mario did some investigation on it, and in talking to him, he wasn't, 100% comfortable with what's going on. I just think we need to know who owns that property before we can put a sidewalk on. I mean,
It's deeded rights. The solar owns almost the middle. Animals, which is now the Chinese building, owns 8 feet from their building, and then this building owns the rest.
I would just like to see that in writing on here, so that somebody that comes to us later, because you're gonna change this to a one-way road now, which is kind of 2 ways now, right? And we were told by that this might have been tied into the Brooks or CBS or what,
Right, it angles off from Arimony's to here, and the building owns to here.
And what about all this
actually behind it?
parking back here and all that stuff? What's
Behind the immediate, my building is owned by Andy Solar. But there's a berm there, and that pond is owned by Rite Aid. And it's kind of angled from Arimony's to, there's a telephone pole in the middle that Arimony's owns. Yeah, the alleyway back here further is where Rite Aid is, but Andy and Mr. Solar owns all the way to past where this telephone pole is, and Arimony's goes on an angle.
And I know you don't want, is there any way you can possibly get that on a drawing like this? Just so, because here's our concern. Well, here's my concern is if you're probably 100% right, but it's got to show it on here so we know it's your property. Does that make any sense?
I've asked my landlord for whatever he has on his building deeded rights. This has been the 4th time. He says he hasn't seen anything in his. I said, well, you purchased the building, you must have something.
Right.
The other deeded rights I have is for the Arimony's building up where theirs comes out.
Right.
I don't own the building or the land.
No,
I
I
just
see.
rent the business, so I can't, or I can.
I mean,
See what, he must have had, it had to be surveyed at some time.
you don't have to.
I believe when the Arimony's was sold, they surveyed, so there has to be a current survey. to
Survey
that.
somewhere around. And this, we really think it's a great idea, but we can't have you put just so you understand our point of view though, we can't let you put a sidewalk on something that you may or may not own, that's the thing, because once that's a permanent structure, by the time you do the fencing and the bumpers and everything else, and then somebody's gonna come back to us and say, well, he doesn't own that. You have to kind of prove on this that you own it, I mean? That's all I'm trying to say. It sounds silly, but I'm just.
Yeah, well, no, I don't own any of it.
Well,
the present owner.
the present owner, whoever the owner of the building owns, or has the right to do what he needs to do on it. That's all. That's other than that, I mean, it's.
Yeah, it should be on the deed or referenced in the survey map. And, typically you would find those items referenced as notes on the plan.
I mean, can you do it?
So what you're asking for is for Frank to have his guy add a note to that plan regarding the ownership?
Just tell us he owns it.
Okay.
I mean, does that make sense to everybody? As far
You're
as.
looking like for a survey or something.
Yeah,
right?
I show the property lines on this site.
And A2 survey.
Yeah, just say, because it's a great idea, but we just can't let him build something on something he may or may not own. That's the only thing I can say. Well, I know he doesn't own it, but I mean, the
Building.
The building owner doesn't own it.
The survey.
If you have it, that'd be great.
They thought it was called Fanning Court, his existing site, his Avalon City, both own. This building comes out 8 feet. So solar, and it's all the way here, and then, that was
So this
one of the only things I found when I was.
so there's a railroad pike stake, so it's almost a center mark.
Correct. Which would be back here. You know,
Right.
something like that.
I think we just from here, from here.
Mr. Chairman, has it been determined whether or not that is an actual viable road in between there, like a two-way road?
No, it's not a town road.
It's not a town road.
No. I mean, historically, it's been used as a.
Fanny Alley, they call it
And
Fanny
from the-
Alley.
It was
Main
Fanning
Street
Court.
and an exit from the back lots. But in all the research I did, there was no references, that being a town road, it's not on the town road list. And looking at the deeds, chase the deeds all the way back to,
18,
you know, the
12.
1800s or whatever, and there was no reference of it being a road. You know, it was owned by the two abutting property owners. Whether or not, you know, anybody in the rear at the time had access, I mean, I didn't chase those deeds down.
Now, are you advocating, one-way in, is that what we're gonna do, or are you gonna go one way out?
It'd probably be easier one way in, because when this car's parked on Main Street on either corner, you can't pull out, you have to go into the other lane to pull out, and you can't see the other oncoming cars coming. So preferably, one way in.
Okay,
Yeah, we're in agreement with that.
yeah, that makes sense.
Just curious, what would be the hours of operation for the south side?
It'd be from noon time, to start serving lunch at noon till, I want to say food will be available till 9 o'clock.
And then what happens after 9? Does it close down or?
Well, you'd still be able to go out there and smoke. It wouldn't actually close down, but there wouldn't be no food service after that. It'd be like the smoke area.
Would
I
they,
wouldn't do entertainment out there, it'd be inside.
but they potentially could be drinking out there, though, right, just as long as they're inside that fenced area?
Along the side of the fence area, the state requires 30-inch high, or the town requires. I have the permit for the state on the height of the
So you're only
fence.
gonna put a 4-foot fence high, though, right?
I'm looking to do 4 foot, correct. If the town says we need to do 5, then whatever's feasible. I don't want, you know, somebody's gonna climb in or over or not, you know, but it would look respectable, and part of the fence will be removable. And there will be a gateway in for handicapped. In the back of the building.
Right down here, the new landing.
So you'll come in, they have 3 entrances. You'll come in 3 into the bar, but only 1 to get onto the deck.
Okay,
So we have to come through so we can see people who come on into the deck.
so there's new ramp, you come up, you go in, and then you have to go into the bar and then out.
Correct.
Okay.
Technically, there's only 1 entrance onto the deck. I mean, there will be exit and a ramp for the handicapped, but to go onto the deck, you have to come into the business, which would be a patio, it's not an actual deck.
Any comments about?
Well, I think if you could take that sheet that shows the property lines and just make sure the dimensions match and lay it out on here.
You should have a letter from the fire marshal on that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I've spoken with the fire marshal.
I don't have it in the file, so it's not on the file.
Everything should be decided.
Frank, he was gonna write something up for that, but what do you think? You dealt with Fred, right?
Yeah, I talked with Fred. The only difference is the one exit inside the building, which would go onto the deck, is an emergency exit, which I would have to move the sign, just make it a regular exit and move to one of my other exits for an emergency.
It's not on the file. I know it should be, but it's not.
Yeah, I gave him the plan, right, walk for it.
All right. So what did the fire marshal say? Did you see the letter?
I haven't, no, I know we talked to Frank and.
Donna, did you see the
No,
letter?
I never.
Oh, so you may not even have it
I
yet.
don't know, yeah.
Okay, do you think you could get us on that drawing, this information, and then come back next week and we can put this to bed, or? Next month, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can see if I can find this further.
If you don't mind, if the commission doesn't mind, I'd like to address you, Kevin Schoolcheck, first selectman. Obviously, we talk about economic development, the downtown Putnam theme, so this is a nice conversation you're having. The other thing I want to point out is we've reached out to the DOT, and they certainly verbally, I'll get something in writing for the commission, are in favor of that not being an access point. It is, as you come by Rite Aid, it's a pretty dangerous area, because you have cars exiting there at the same time, or, traffic flowing. So I think the DOT certainly is in favor of seeing something restricting the traffic flow there. So I'll get that for the commission now.
I'd like to make a motion to table for the next meeting, if we can. Or further, just to get further information.
I make a motion that ZP 04-15, Frank Girovino, 37D Main Street, Jewett City. The request for approval of a zoning permit to have the patio be postponed until April 13th meeting in order for the applicant to provide additional information to be added to the site plan.
Is there a second? Yes,
What's the application date? Is there a time limit on this?
just came in, right? Because we,
Yeah, at the bottom of the page, it should have the date that came in of the application.
2/9,
2/9.
14, this thing just came in.
So we're good.
We're good. 14, why does it say 14?
Because
The
that's
original one was the
just the 14 instead of 15. It came in
Chairman, the original application was denied
without.
without prejudice, so he could get the additional information, because at that time he was getting close to the.
So we didn't put a new application in, he didn't pay new
No,
fees?
he put a new application.
Okay,
Yes.
but we waived the fees?
Yes.
Actually, the date is 12/26/14.
That was the original one.
That was the original?
That was the original one.
All right, Donna, for the record, what's the date of this application? Because I have every date in the middle on this.
Well, let me see.
Oh.
Because
Okay, date of receipt, February 9th, so it says 14.
I know, I said that's not correct. That's basically- But yes, it came in for the meeting day that we had to cancel due to
Okay.
that, so
So we have one more.
we haven't.
Okay, thank you.
So, this is a different one. These are the originals. All these on the principal.
Yeah, not all of them. Here's, Mr. Rubin, here's the concern. We just want to make sure you own, that's all. Once, if he can prove where you own, that you own that, you're home free. But we just can't approve something unless I know you don't own it, unless the building owner owns it. That's what we have to be concerned about. Because then somebody can come back to us and say, well, what gave you the right to put something on my property, and then, or whatever.
Also, maybe on the site plan, something for stipulated signage for one way, enter at one end, one way entrance, the other end, do not enter.
So that's a signage thing. And you have to get a 4-foot fence, or you want a little higher.
I'm happy to be able to see. I'm
just pulling out.
You'll keep the dogs down.
All right, keep the dogs out, yeah. All right, is there a motion made, seconded, or do we leave it?
There's a motion and a second.
All right.
Discussion.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
So Mario, can he,
Yeah, I'll get together with Frank.
maybe put
Square
those
away.
changes on there just so he remembers the signage issues and. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. SE 01-15, Telcon Connecticut Inc., 43 Seneca Road and 176 Rickstown Road, Griswold, Connecticut. Requesting approval for special exception for earth product excavation and removal operating is done in two phases, with all material being taken from the site and hauled to the processing plant located on an adjacent site, real property located at 176 Rickstown Road. Property is owned in commercial. Anybody here representing? Depends what you want.
The applicant has withdrawn the application, subject to the consulting engineer site.
Okay.
So,
I saw you hanging around for something, Harry. I didn't know what you're hanging around for.
Are you getting to that?
Yeah, we withdrew the application because when we got the review comments in, the review engineer was correct. There's a wetland system across Sabicki Road from this property that's within the 150-foot commercial industrial upland review area. And the statute requires you to submit your application to wetlands contemporaneously with a before-year submission, planning and zoning.
Okay.
So we withdrew this. We resubmitted this to you Friday.
Okay.
So this will come up on your April agenda and then you can schedule a public hearing.
Okay. Next matter for consideration, DP 0515, American Industries, 360 Plainfield Road, Griswold, Connecticut. Requesting approval of the zoning permit to install 3 above-ground LP tanks at existing asphalt plant to power circulating oil burners. The tanks will be supported on cradles and set on existing pads formed from asphalt millings. A 6-foot high fence will enclose the storage tanks. Property is zone C2. Anybody here representing the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. Name and information for the record, please.
My name is David McKay, professional engineer with Boundaries LLC. You're representing the applicant, American Industries. So as described, the proposal is to install some above-ground propane storage tanks in order to power the circulating oil burner. This is a overall view of the American Industries site on Plainfield Road. You can see at the north end of the facility is where the proposed tanks are going to be installed. Right here is the asphalt plant. And that's approximately where the tanks would be installed. We prepared a site plan to go along with the application, showing the existing pad, the 3 above-ground tanks.
What size are they?
There are 2 1,000-gallon tanks and 1 500-gallon tank.
Okay.
Those will be enclosed inside a fenced 6-foot high chain link fence, and that's used to power the circulating oil burner here on the plan labeled boiler machinery. And what that oil burner does, it heats oil that circulates through the tanks to keep the liquid asphalt at the appropriate temperatures.
Is that being run on oil now when you change it to propane?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's not going to be as smoky as it used to be, correct?
This is in order to convert the plant or the circulating oil burner to
Okay.
propane.
And the piping from one to the other, is that going on underground or above ground?
That would be underground piping.
Okay.
That's expected to be part of the application for building permit,
Okay.
home permit. This process, we submitted this packet of information to Mr. Marzik regarding some questions he had about the proposal. He reviewed the information and provided us with this email, and I can read that for the record. Afternoon, Mr. Police, based on our conversation this afternoon regarding the site plan review for the proposed 3 LPG tanks and enclosure at the American Industries asphalt, provided the following. Site plan. Number 1, the location of the intended storage area appears to be satisfactory for distance, safety, and general enclosure. Number 2, there are a few items that need clarification on the intended process of filling bottles and related questions that can be resolved for submission of the final design and code compliance. Number 3, in terms of site plan submission, this office finds the site plan satisfactory. Respectfully, Fred Marzick, Fire Marshal, Griswold. Here's copies of the email. And one of the items that we show on the site plan is the approximate setbacks from important items. The closest part of the pad is approximately 115 feet from the Route 12 highway line. And then the other corner is approximately 310 feet from the limit of wetlands on the other side of Johnson Cove Road, and 290 linear feet to the approximate property line in the vicinity of Johnson Cove Road. So that's the information we have about the proposed site plan and the storage tanks in order to change the circulating oil burner from diesel to propane as its fuel source. Any questions?
Any questions for anybody?
Dave, is that, it looks like it's far enough from any potential truck.
Yes, truck traffic circulates through here. This is along the edge of the paved area. And actually also there's existing concrete blocks that are around the existing pad. Those would be relocated to the outside of the fence when that's installed to provide further protection.
Are the existing oil tanks being removed?
No, this is just to power the circulating oil burner. The existing tanks are still in place to power the rest of the plant.
That should cut down some of the smoke out of that place. Does anybody have any comments, questions? What's your pleasure?
I guess I would ask the applicant, is this in accordance with what DEP is requiring of this property as far as improvements for water and air quality and spill prevention plan? Is this incorporated into that plan as well?
Go ahead and answer that call. For the record, John Felicia Boundaries. This is one of the steps in the process to bring the plant into further compliance with the appropriate standards, and this is just one of the steps. Originally, the building permit application was filed for the propane tanks. Upon Peter's review of the sketch that was provided, there was some inadequacies in terms of location and function and how it was going to work. So at that point, Peter directed Pat to have a site plan prepared, which is what we've done and why we're here today. Again, as Dave mentioned, it's outside of any of the other appropriate setbacks that are required, but it gives Pat an opportunity to get some of that plant converted to a cleaner fuel source.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Says the town planner will update the commission on the status of the application.
Yeah, the only item that we had received was the report from the fire marshal, which has been received, so from a zoning standpoint, we're good with it.
Approval of the zoning permit and the existing asphalt plan